Hi everyone, this is Khushboo Chokshi and today we are going to do the compiler of the past exam questions of the General Clauses Act. So every time General Clauses Act is being studied, the questions asked are that what kind of questions are going to be asked in the examination. So we have compiled the past exam question papers and we'll be discussing them quickly so that it helps you understand what are the type of questions being asked. Two three things that case study questions, there are a few typical case study questions. One is about the dividend question that is being asked, determining the calculation of time frame of 30 days, also calculating that if the time frame comes on a public holiday, what will you do. So that is one question where they are testing your knowledge on the General Clauses Act and on the Companies Act. So both of these questions will be covered. Second is about when the act will come into force. That is also again one practical case study. Practical case study are 2 3 only, and then the rest is definition. So about when the act will come into force. So normally when it comes in the official gazette, and if there's a date specified, then on that date. So they'll ask you different scenarios based on testing your knowledge on both the concepts. And one more question would be on your immovable property, as to what will constitute immovable property and what will not constitute immovable property. So these are the type of practical case study questions that are being asked. Theory questions are normally your effect of repeal, section 6, definition of good faith, definition of affidavit, means and includes, shall and may. So these are all very standard questions. So it's very simple to answer the questions of the General Clauses Act, because it will cover the most expected kind of questions. It's not something rocket science or something out of the box that is being asked for General Clauses Act. So we'll quickly go through the questions and understand the questions that have been asked in the past papers. X owned a land with 50 tamarind trees. He sold his land and the obtained after cutting the 53 trees to Y. X wants to know whether the sale of timber amounts to sale of immovable property. Advice with reference to the provisions of General Clauses Act. So when we did the General Clauses Act, we have studied that under the Transfer of Property Act, sale of timber has been excluded, correct? So sale of timber is something which can be severed from the land and which can be sold separately, and hence it will not form part of your immovable property. So we'll have to first explain what is immovable property and then give the definition as to why sale of timber will not be considered to be immovable property. Explain briefly any 4 effects by repeal of an existing act by central legislation under section 6. So the section 6 ka there are 5 criteria that any inquiry or litigation which is done under the previous act, any right obtained or liability obtained, privileges obtained cannot be changed. All of that, the punishments given in that will not be changed. Those 5 points, any 4 you have to write. If you remember all 5, you write all 5. What is the meaning of service by post? Again, favorite question of the institute and very simple to answer as per the provision. So service by post is normally when you are going to service by ordinary post or speed post, it has to be properly stamped with the time and all of that. And if someone says that I want it by registered post acknowledgement due, then you'll have to send it by registered post acknowledgement due. You cannot send it only by registered post. Yeah, this is a favorite question. Komal Limited declared a dividend for its shareholders in its AGM on 27 September 2018, referring to the provisions of General Clauses Act and Companies Act, because he is testing both the acts. Advise the date during which Komal is required to pay the dividend and the date which Komal is required to transfer unpaid or unclaimed dividend to unpaid dividend account. So 2 questions here. First is when you have to pay. So once you've declared the dividend, you have to pay within a period of 30 days. And secondly, that once 30 days are over, if you don't pay within 30 days, then you will have to transfer it to unpaid dividend account or unclaimed dividend account within a period of 7 days. So here you are giving your answer based on the Companies Act. Now why is General Clauses Act coming into picture? Because of calculation. When you are calculating the time frame, what does the General Clauses Act say? That the first in the series of day has to be excluded and the last in the series of days has to be included, and hence 27 September, that day will be excluded, and from 28th you will start, and then you will calculate 30 days and then again 7 days after 31st. Explain the provisions applicable to rules or bylaws being made after previous publication as enumerated in section 23. Now these are the sundry clauses which are given at the end, but the question here is asked that if there is any publication or rule or bylaws after previous publication. So whenever you are issuing rules or bylaws, first you have to give a draft, like how you have for act, before you get the act into force, you'll have to have a bill, then you have to get suggestions, then take those suggestions into action, and then you give out the act. Similarly here, when you're having rules or bylaws, first you will give out the draft rules or bylaws, then people will give their comments, you will take the suggestions into consideration, and then after taking the suggestion into consideration, you will have another copy, and then the final copy will be the one which is published in the official gazette. So this is what you will have to write down in theory. The Companies Act provides that the amount of dividend, again the same type of question, remaining unpaid or unclaimed on expiry of 30 days from the date of declaration of dividend shall be transferred to unpaid dividend account within 7 days. So here they have already given you the Companies Act answer, they are not asking you about it, correct? From the date of expiry of such period of 30 days. If the expiry date of such is 30th of October, decide the last date on which the unpaid dividend has to be transferred to a separate bank account. So here it has to be done within a period of 7 days. We know the answer. How will you calculate? So you have to first write first in the series of days to be excluded, last to be included, and it will be paid on 6th of November. Referring to the General Clauses Act, find out the day or date on which the following act comes into force. Act of Parliament which has not specifically mentioned a particular date. If it has not specifically mentioned a particular date, then it will come into force on the date on which it is published in the official gazette. The Securities and Exchange Board of India issue of Capital and Disclosure Requirement 5th Amendment Regulation 2015 was issued by SEBI wide notification dated 14th August 2015 with effect from 1st Jan 2016. So it has been published in the official gazette on 14th August 15, but it has been mentioned that it will come into force on 1st of Jan 2016. So your effective date, the date it will come into force will be 1st Jan 2016. What do you understand? Favorite question by the term good faith. Good faith has been asked a lot of times. Very, very important. The definition is very, very simple to remember. It's very generic. You can write it down in your own words, correct? So what do you understand by good faith? Explain as per the provisions of General Clauses Act. Mr. X purchased a watch from Mr. Y carelessly without proper inquiry. Whether the purchase could be said to be made in good faith. So if you are doing something in good faith, you have to do it in honesty, and you have to ensure that you do your due diligence as a man of ordinary prudence would. If you don't do that, then it cannot be said to be done in good faith. Here he has purchased the product without proper inquiry, and hence it can be said that it is not in good faith. Define the term affidavit. Affidavit, oath, swear, all have the same definition. So if you learn that one definition, you can answer all the three definitions together if asked in the examination. Mrs. K went to a jewelry shop to purchase diamond ornaments. The owners of jewelry shop are notorious and indulge in smuggling activities. Mrs. K purchased diamond ornaments honestly without making proper inquiries. Was it done in good faith? Same question asked again, correct? There are two ways to reach a city A from city B. The distance between the two cities by roadway is 100 kilometers and by waterway it is 80 kilometers. How is the distance measured under the General Clauses Act? So this is that simple clause that was given, the smallest clause I can remember in your General Clauses Act, is that the measurement of distances has to be done in a horizontal plane line. So that is all you have to write, straight line on a horizontal plane. Define the terms affidavit, good faith. Again the same question being asked again and again. PK and VK had a long dispute regarding the ownership of land for which a legal suit was pending in the court. The court fixed the date of hearing on 29th of April 2018, which was announced to be a holiday subsequently by the government. What will be the computation of time of hearing under the General Clauses Act? So here the date which has been declared is a holiday, so you will have to consider the next day afterwards, the next working day afterwards, as the general clauses as per the General Clauses Act. Just a reminder that in your Negotiable Instrument Act, they have given specifically that you have to consider your preceding day and not the next day. So if it's a question on negotiable instrument, you will have to take the preceding day, but general clauses or any other act, if they don't have specifically given anything, it will be the next working day. Income Tax Act provides that gratuity paid by the government to its employees is fully exempt from tax. You are required to explain the term government and clarify whether the exemption from gratuity will be available to state government employees. Give your answer according to General Clauses Act. So, government again is a very simple definition. Government is defined to mean state government and central government. So, that is the definition. Then it is asking exemption from gratuity to state government employees. Yes, because they are covered under the definition of the government. The act done negligently shall be deemed to be done in good faith. Comment with the provisions of General Clauses Act. Again, they are asking you about the question on good faith. Examine the validity of the following statements with reference to the General Clauses Act. Insurance policies covering immovable property have been held to be immovable property. Is that correct? What do you think? Insurance policies are not immovable property, even though they are for immovable property. So, insurance policy for a immovable property is not a immovable property. The word bullocks could be interpreted to include cows. Now, this is a case study which is there in your module. Always, if you see, institute is asking you questions from the module itself. It is not asking you anything outside of your module. So this is a question, this is a case study which is being given in the module, and from that case study this is being asked, and normally the gender will include the other gender as well. So if it's for he, it will also include a she, but for bullocks that is not a case. If they have mentioned bullocks, then it will be only bullocks and it will not include cows. Ajit was supposed to submit an appeal to High Court to Kolkata on 30th of March 2020, which was the last day on which such appeal could be submitted. Unfortunately, on that day, High Court was closed due to total lockdown all over India due to COVID pandemic. Examine the remedy available to Ajit under the provisions of the General Clauses Act. So again, this is something which you have done, that if it comes on a holiday, then it will be the next working day. So whenever the lockdown is lifted and the court starts functioning on that day, the Ajit will be filing the appeal to the High Court. So these are the questions which are asked for your General Clauses Act. They are not very difficult, simple to answer. I'll be sharing the link, sharing the document on my Telegram channel. So if you wish to download, you can download it from there. Hope this video was useful, and all the very best for your examination. Thank you.